calling all hardscapers, landscapers, and outdoor living pros. This is your host, Joshua Gillow. I am so excited to announce our first ever 6-day immersive hands-on outdoor living design build event in New Holland, Pennsylvania. Over the course of a week, Yes Express, Souders Hardscape Supply, and Pave Tool Innovators are going to teach you how to become downright dangerous in sales, design, installation, and equipment/tool operation. Expert teachers will cover the installation of custom features like permeable pavers, fireplaces, stone decks, custom outdoor kitchens, water features, putting greens, and so much more. This event was designed specifically for growth-minded business owners and teams who want to get their hands dirty and learn from the best so they can take their businesses to new, unimaginable levels. So mark your calendar from February 20th to the 25th. Seating is limited. You can get your tickets today at outdoorlivingmastery.com. Again, outdoorlivingmastery.com. Oh, did I mention that we're raffling off over $20,000 in specialty tools and other profit-driving goodies at this event? You're not going to want to miss it. Let's make 2023 the most profitable year ever. Now back to the show. Hello, and welcome to Outer Spaces, a podcast dedicated to empowering designers and contractors in the outdoor living space. Through this show, I hope to create a powerful resource for you, someone who is trying to grow their company but might not have all the tools and processes to do so. On Outer Spaces, we're passionate about breaking the chains of small mindsets and helping contractors just like you take control of their businesses and their lives. My name is Joshua Gillow, and through my 25 years of dirt under the nails experience, I look forward to sharing tips, strategies, and other contractor success stories here on the Outer Spaces podcast. Now, let's get on with the show. Hello, welcome back to the Outer Spaces podcast. This is your host, Joshua Gillow. This episode is sponsored by Yes Express, where we can help landscapers, hardscapers, and outdoor living pros double their sales in half the time. If you're curious, reach out to us. hello@yes.express. Today, on our show, we have Zach Gordon. He's a young operations manager at MGZ Lawn and Ground Care in Ohio. He's going to come on today, and we're going to have a conversation about what it's like to be young in the industry and trying to get others, especially in the commercial industry, that's where he's at, and trying to get them to, kind of take you seriously, right? I know there's a lot of people out there listening. A lot of listeners are young and starting business. I know I remember back when I was 18 and started mine, and trying to get the credibility from your clients and trying to get projects moving forward. So today, Zach's going to dive deep into that with me, and we're going to teach you what he learned along his journey about how to overcome that obstacle and to become the badass that he is. So, Zach, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, no problem, Zach. It's my pleasure to have you on here. And I like to get, I did read some of your bio early on, and it says that you love to kayak and hunt. So tell me a little bit about that kayaking. Are you one of those guys that puts the pads on and the helmet and flips over waterfalls? Or are you more like let's kick back and go enjoy ourselves a little time away with some quiet? Where do you fall?
Definitely the quiet. I love a nice calm river, maybe a little rapid here and there, but a nice calm river. That way, the cooler doesn't tip over off the kayak, and I can enjoy my Saturday or Sunday and relax a little bit.
I love that, dude. Those guys are crazy. I've watched some of these documentaries off waterfalls, and when they put pads and helmets on to get in a kayak, that's a whole other level.
That's too much for me.
That's not very relaxing. It doesn't sound like it.
I'm a pair of swim trunks and a pair of Crocs.
And some ice and beer, and you're good to go.
Yes, exactly.
I love it. So Zach, take me back to, to how you got into this industry and became operations manager over at MGZ, and take me down your path. Where'd you come from?
Yeah, so I'll try to sum it up as best I can. So around 2014, I started working for my dad's company, which is MGZ. We used to be Brown's Lawn Service we started in 1972. So this is actually technically our 50th year in business. Nice. We've got some contracts here in our folders in our office that are from 1981 as the oldest I found, that we still have that customer today. And there's a handful of them we still have from the 80s. But we were at one time one of the largest commercial landscapers in Dayton. But I can get into that later. My background is I started in 2014 here on a crew, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do yet. When I was in junior high and coming into high school, I wanted to either be a design engineer or some sort of engineer for Ford Motor Company. I love the F-Series trucks. I love F-250s and F-350s, and I wanted to be one of the ones that was responsible for designing them, implementing them, making changes. And then as I went on a little bit, I realized office isn't really for me. I started looking more towards a law enforcement career. And I really didn't realize it at the time, but my dad had some side accounts that he always mowed when I was younger, and I would always go with him, and I loved going with him. I just never realized that it's what I wanted to do later in life. So 2014 and 15, I started working on a crew. And then I started really kind of realizing that this is what I wanted to get into. So I enrolled in a business management class at one of our career centers locally. And the start date was too early. I wanted to keep on mowing with my crew for another couple weeks. So I skipped that, just said, well, I'm just going to do regular high school. And then my mom called me one day while I was actually at work and said, hey, I just talked to this instructor at Upper Valley Career Center, which is our closest one to where I live and where I'm from. It's in Piqua. It's north of Dayton, about a half an hour. She said they start Thursday. And this was Tuesday. She's like, you need to go up there tomorrow and meet the instructor because it's not too late. So that Wednesday, literally took a break from my crew on my lunch break. My dad drove me up to Piqua. I got a name drop, John Kreitzer. He was my instructor at the Career Center and really is one that ignited my passion for this industry and really kind of propelled me to do more in the industry. I'm lucky enough to call him one of my good friends now. We talk pretty much weekly. But it was literally the day before the Career Center started that I made the decision on my lunch break to enroll there and go through their program. And then that led to, we have what's called the Ohio High School Landscape Olympics. It's put on by our local, or it's Ohio Green Industry Association. So our
Nice.
state association, and it's high school teams from all over the state. There's usually between 100 to 300 kids that are all in career tech programs for landscaping that go and compete. And while I was there, I met with Ohio State ATI and with Columbus State Community College, and then ended up after high school going to Columbus State for 2 years for landscape design and management, and just haven't looked back since. Been in depth with this industry, and I don't think I'd ever leave. I've looked at, if we ever get out of our company, if we ever sell out or change ownership, if we ever decide to be done with our family company and go a different direction, I will probably still, with working with John, I go to the Career Center a lot and volunteer for his classes and help
Nice.
them to kind of inspire the next generation. I'm big on, we as an industry need to do better with reaching out to the next generation, because there's a lot of this industry that's aging,
For sure.
for lack of a better word. And
Mhm.
that's a problem. We need to ignite more. And so I think even if I get out of my company aspect, I'd probably still look at being an instructor for a career tech. So I'm pretty well dug into this industry. I don't plan on leaving anytime soon.
I love that, dude. I love your passion to helping, and especially the volunteering and helping the next generation. Now, I got to back up a little bit here. You mentioned landscape competition. So tell me what a landscape competition is and how that actually lays out. I'm curious.
So they put it on. It was the first year of it was my junior year in high school. So my first year at the Career Center, and I think we placed fifth that year. But they have, I believe, 18 events. They're all sponsored by local Ohio companies. So there's everything from Mini X to skid steer to plant installation, truck and trailer, plant ID, turf. There's just all these competitions. And even for you, I believe you're in Pennsylvania, correct?
That is correct.
This coming November, I'll try to reach out to you, because I try to tell as many industry people I can about it, because it's just so unique and so cool, because
Nice.
no other state really does it. It's basically a smaller version of what the NALP does with their national collegiate competition.
Okay.
It's basically the same thing, only on a high school level. And there's all these companies from around Ohio that go and they set up a career fair, and it's just a day full of competitions. And I'm lucky enough to say I've got my stack of medals from my 2 years of going. So
Nice.
I go every year. The reason we don't really go as a company is because I'm so close to all the kids in that program at the Career Center anyway.
Mhm.
I already have kind of a feeling of which ones I want to hire.
Yeah.
And I like to go and just, instead of being there to advertise for my company. I'd much rather go and help John's program out and try to help them win. Essentially, we've danced all the way around first. We've gotten every medal but first, and it's always by just a couple points. So we're overdue now.
I love what you're saying, because I know a lot of listeners have a hard time finding good help. Like, where's the well to find all the good help? They all seem to be going somewhere else, so they just aren't there. And it sounds to me like you've found the better way to hire people, add value first, that whole concept, and through the volunteer side. So tell me about how volunteering, giving your time, has paid off. It sounds like huge dividends when it comes to hiring. You got to give first in order to get. So tell me a little bit about your mindset there, because I think it's dialed right in.
Yeah. So especially with the Career Center kids, with me being 22, I can kind of connect with them a little bit better than a lot of our competitors can.
Mm-hmm.
So whereas they're going up to our competitors' booths, or when our competitors come into the Career Center even and talk to the kids, they really can't connect with them because they're not the same age.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, down the road, I'll probably lose that touch. I'm sure, because eventually it's going to be, they're going to have the iPhone 28. I'm still going to be with my iPhone 13 or something, and I'm going to be completely lost talking to them. But really just, I try to go in there at least a couple times a month, and whether it's just glad handing with some of the kids, and, a lot of them look up to me because they see, okay, he went through the program, he got his degree, he's gone through all these steps. And even though it's my parents' company, they kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel of where they can go, and it's not just mowing yards. And so I can connect with them a little bit when I go in there, and not just be there to teach them something. I can go in and just sometimes just sit in a class and just watch. And then when we talk about business management, or whatever topic I discuss with them, some of them look at me like I just read them the encyclopedia front to back. And some of them really grasp on and go, wow, this guy knows what he's talking about. I need to probably pay attention, because a handful of them they have their own companies, small mowing companies, and they see the scale that we operate on. And I was lucky enough, I actually had one of them that is a potential hire. He actually rode with me for this last snowstorm last week, and was able to see how frantic I am during a major snowstorm. And I've got my truck radio on, and I'm talking to other trucks, and I've got customers calling me, and just all the moving pieces. And he was able to see that, okay, it's not just mowing grass and just pushing snow. There's a whole other side of the world with the management aspect, and trying to push them, especially if they're going to the Career Center and they're furthering their education, trying to push them to do more, not just mow yards their entire life, because we need operations managers and account managers and sales managers, and that next step. And with them going to the Career Center and possibly even college, it kind of jumpstarts that.
I love it, dude. And you're getting them, and you're right, because you could look at being 22 and starting when you were in junior high. You could look at this as a major problem. I know when I first started out at 18, everything was uphill. Like, I'd go to people's houses and I'd be looking around all googly eyed, like, people live like this?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't grow up like this. These people have all these cars and fancy stuff. And I'm like, oh my goodness, they're going to realize that I don't know what the hell I'm doing, right? It's this whole imposter thing, right? And I know it took me a while to shake that, but, especially being young. So I'm so excited for you that you've seen that as a superpower and not as something detrimental to your growth. So what I would love to do is kind of unpack this now. Okay. So you have clients you mentioned earlier from 1981 that are still on with you guys today. Now you are, in sales and operations manager. How's the transition been from someone much older than you to a 20-some-year-old guy coming in and saying, I'm going to take care of your account now? Like, what kind of struggles have you gone through to make that real inside, and also external struggles that you found?
Yes, there's a couple of the customers that they still deal with my dad. Okay. They don't really fully back me yet. And the certain ones that he still takes care of are ones that they're not really needy. They're not, as long as the grass is short and the snow's cleared, they're happy. Got it. The ones that I take care of, because my dad is a turf guy. He came from ChemLawn. He worked there for a long time. And then, so his whole realm is turf and mine is landscape. So we work well together in that aspect, because if I have a turf question, I can kind of lean on him, even though I have a decent knowledge of it. And when he has landscape questions or like what plants need to go where, I can really shine there. So a lot of the customers that want a lot of install work and floral displays, 90, I'd say probably 98% of the customers are under my account management realm. But it's really just trying to use as much knowledge as I can and match I always say match their energy.
Yeah.
I'm not a true salesperson. I'm not pushy. I don't call a customer every other day. I know there's a couple of our competitors around here that they bid on a few of our accounts and they called them every other day for 2 weeks, wondering if they got a signed contract yet. And I'm not that guy. I'm not pushy.
Well, actually, I don't know if you're pushy. I just know that you're not needy.
Exactly. Yes.
Right. There's a big difference between that. And in sales, I think you're doing sales correctly. You said you're not the salesperson. I think you actually are. You're just not the quintessential, drive the phone to the ground and scream at people until they buy from you, call till they die kind of thing.
I always say I'm not an insurance salesperson. I can't bug somebody like that.
Exactly.
I present what we have in our contracts or our quotes. And really the biggest thing with getting customers to be on board with it is just showing them what we can do and showing them what I can do. Trying to be as responsive as possible, do whatever they ask when they ask it. And it takes some time. It took some time with a lot of them that I have now that they're in their 60s that are, late 50s that they weren't on board with it at first. And, we went from one of my best customers, we went from meeting probably once every couple months to we'll meet for lunch pretty much once a month and end up spending an hour, 2 hours and just talk everything from as bad as it is, politics to, to fishing to anything. And it's just all about matching. For me, it's all about matching their energy. If they're really high strung, then I'll be more uptight and I'll be more, I will hurry up and get things done quicker and be, more responsive. But if I know that they're laid back and they're easygoing, then I'll send a quote in an email, shoot them a text, say, hey, just sent you a quote for some things I noticed. Let me know if you want to proceed, and we'll leave it at that. And if they sign it, they do. If not, I'm not going to hound them about it because I know that's how they operate, and I'm going to match that.
I love it, dude. It's the whole concept of match and mirror. If you come up to somebody and you're like a hyper dog jumping all over the place and they're really, really docile and relaxed, they're not going to be able to connect with you.
Yep.
That's sales 101. You've got to match them where they're at. And it's not saying you change your personality. You don't say, okay, I hate the color pink and all of a sudden I do. I love it. Like it's not the point. You're not lying to people. You're simply understanding that in order to have the biggest impact, positive impact in your life, you gotta match and mirror. And that comes with energy. Yep. Dude, I'm sure you already know this, but for the listeners out there, there's so much power when it comes to, and I don't mean power in like a controlling power. I just mean in influence and being able to inspire people that comes from just being mindful of the match and mirror side of things, matching their energies, even their body language. If somebody's sitting at a table and their arms are crossed, there's a high probability that they're subconsciously blocking what you're saying. Now, sometimes their arms are cold. That happens too. Like it's not a guarantee, but you can see when people start to relax and become comfortable because all of a sudden they become more of an open position. Their hands are out in front of them instead of arms crossed. Their legs aren't crossed. They're there. They're leaning into the table versus leaning back. Like all of those little cues are subconscious cues for you to know as a salesperson to know whether your message is effective or not, or whether you're going too hard or too low or not hard enough, or any of those kinds of things. So to be very mindful of that throughout, and I'm glad you've picked up on that because it's huge. Match and mirror is gigantic. Yeah.
And even with, I even try to match once I meet them a few times, or if I know a little bit about them, I even try to match, not really language, but if I have a customer that drops the F-bomb every other word, I'm probably going to drop it a couple times myself because they're going to go, oh, well, he's not just some, salesman from outer space. He's a normal person like me and I can get along with him. And then I have some that, they'll be wearing a full suit with a gold cross, and I'll make sure I've got my nicest Dockers and nicer shoes and a nice button down on. Whereas the other guy, I can wear jeans and a polo with boots and be just fine. So for me, it's all about trying to match that effect because it helps them relate a little bit more. And there's a common saying in business, people do business with who they know, like, and trust. And for me, the biggest thing has been earning trust of customers and showing them that, hey, if you need something done, we'll do it. A lot of times I end my phone calls with them, just let me know whatever you need and we'll get it taken care of. And that way they know we do some crazy stuff. I mean, we had one customer call and I had to run last Friday over to push one of the tenants' cars out of a snowbank because she tried to park in one of our snow piles. So, as much as I would love to say, Toyota Camry. And so as much as I'd love to say, what? I'm like, we'll get it taken care of. I'll be over there in an hour.
Yeah.
And just earning their trust of them knowing that, okay, if we need anything outdoors, we can call him. Yeah. That's really been the biggest thing for me is just earning the trust of our customers.
100%.
And new ones as well.
And that's why you have clients still from 1981. That's a heck of a long time. And that's a heck of an achievement too, because most can barely hold them for one contract or two.
Right.
And you have these connections. That's amazing. When you say you really put the human experience, the client experience as the top of the list, just like you mentioned there with the car. So it's so powerful, dude. So, all right. So you're 22, you're starting to get involved with some of these accounts that have been around a while. How has bringing technology from a 22-year-old perspective into a world where, let's face it, 60-year-olds aren't going to be the fastest to text, or they probably don't check email, they'd rather a phone call. Like, how do you balance how you communicate with a very big spread of ages within your, in your service environment? So how do you work that? Do you have certain things like, all right, if they're under 25, this is probably it. If they're over 45, don't do this. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, I try to ask them whenever I first meet them. All of our customers I've had for a while, I pretty much know what they want. But I have it on all my notes for my customers in my QuickBooks account or whatever other accounts we use. I've got notes of pretty much what everybody prefers, and I try to ask that pretty soon or pretty early in. Sometimes the first meeting, hey, what's the easiest way to get a hold of you? Email, text, phone call. What do you prefer? And so I have a bunch of customers that like texts. I have a lot of them that like phone calls. Mm-hmm. I tell them all the time, I'm never at my office. I said, I don't even know why I put my office phone number on my card, because more than likely, if you call my office, I'm not going to be there. Yeah. I'm in my truck 90% of the time or out on a job site or whatever, and I'm not going to be able to answer that office phone. So I try to get a handle on that pretty quick. Do you like email? Do you like text? Do you want me to call your office, your cell phone? I tell them, if you have any emergencies after hours, call me, because if I'm asleep at 10 o'clock on a Thursday night and, there's a water main that breaks at your building and we have to have somebody go salt, if you text me, I may not wake up. So I tell them all the time, I say, if you have something that you need, call me. Yeah. Especially if it's after hours. Now, if it's during work, text me. If it's not emergency, text me. But same thing with contracts even. We have some customers that they want me to print off a paper contract and they'll sign it and I'll scan it to them and I'll drop a signed contract copy back off. Yeah. And then we have others that they want me to send it over in Adobe with the fill and sign, and then it's just, or DocuSign, and then it's just done. Yeah. So same thing with trying to match the personalities is matching what they prefer technology wise. I carry an iPad for almost everything, but I've got all kinds of legal pads and everything else around my office. I can't be fully paperless because I'm kind of old school and I like pen and paper myself. So it's really just kind of matching what the customer wants in terms of that. We still print invoices. I know there's a lot of companies that they only email them. But we have some older customers that they hate having their emails invoiced or their invoices emailed because they have to print them off. And, I could say, well, that's your problem, not mine. That's just an extra step for you. But if they prefer a paper copy mailed to them, then that's what we'll do. We try to put, the customer's needs first in everything that we do on that spectrum. And, same thing with technology. I do property inspection reports for every property we have, or at least under my realm. And some of them like them printed and handed to them whenever I see them, or they want them emailed. So it's all about just kind of matching what they want.
Got it. And that's really cool, especially when you have a long-term relationship. If you're out design building something and you're in and out in a few months or a few weeks, the chance of that client becoming a long-term client with a construction project is pretty slim.
Right.
because the project's done. But if you're on maintenance, you're long term. It's like you're dating this
Yeah.
person, you're getting married to this person.
Yeah.
So it'd be good to know what their love language is, how they communicate best, because then you can have the best, most effective relationship, and they can tell all their friends that you actually give a shit, right? That you actually care. Now, a question I have for you though, how do you balance that? How do you work on your yes management? Especially you mentioned about somebody calling you at 11 o'clock at night because of a water main or whatever, right? And something you need salting right away. How do you personally manage it when you know you're always on call?
So most of the time we don't have issues like that happen, but I'm a horrible yes man. And maybe that's why my customers like me, because I don't say no a whole lot. I probably say yes more than I should with certain things. And I probably, for certain customers, move a lot of things around like I probably shouldn't. But I think that really helps. It is a hard balance. It's until I hire another manager, which is hopefully going to be within the next year or so, to kind of take some of my workload off of me. It's a lot. Even on vacation, I find myself answering texts, and it's unfortunate that that's a struggle that we have, that I have to deal with, that, I can have them message my dad or whatever, or my right-hand man, that's my field service manager, but it still boils down to most of them want to text me. And that is one of the bigger struggles we have, is I'm a yes man. There's a lot of things, especially with our bigger customers. If they say, "Hey, we need this install done by the end of the month," I know we're scheduled for 6 weeks out, but we got to have this install done. We got a big event coming. I'm okay. Yep, I'll move stuff around. We'll get it done. Yeah. And so it's probably not. We're going to have to try to work on that as we grow, and I understand that. Yeah. But for right now, we're pretty small fish in a big market. We have a lot of regional competitors that we take some big name accounts from, and we handle some big name accounts that they salivate over, and nothing makes me happier than knowing that, because we're kind of the underdog. With having, we're about $1.5 million in revenue, about 15 to 20 employees at peak season in the field. Yeah. So it is a balance that we're gonna have to try to work on, or I'm gonna have to try to work on going forward, because it is an issue, being on call whenever. Like I said, most of the time in spring, summer, and fall, we don't have any issues, but snow for us is go time. So if they call me at midnight, it's like, if I can't get a hold of one of my guys, you better believe I'll be hopping in a dump truck and going to salt a parking lot. It's still boils down to all about taking care of the customer, and for right now, it's whatever it takes. So as we grow, though, we're gonna have to work on that. And that is, like I said, something that we need to address.
Yeah, man. Coming from being a recovering people pleaser myself and a yes man, I'd say yes to everybody all the time, because the last thing I wanted was them to be mad at me, or to go somewhere else because I wasn't there to help them out. And to be honest with you, I think you're going to find in your journey that when you eventually put some yes management insight and you start to say no to certain things keep moving forward, and you actually get a little bit of respect at times when you sure need it. Now, are you married? Do you have kids?
No. Okay,
got it. That's where it'll change.
Yeah. It's we have, because when I took over operations manager in 2019, we hit a record year in 2019. We went down a little bit for 2020, and then 21 we bumped back up. 22 we've bumped way back up. Good. So when I took over, we were about 700,000 in revenue. So right now we're sitting right around 1.5 million. Got it. And as we've gotten over that about 1.1 to 1.2 threshold, I've started saying more to new customers. Yep. Existing customers that we have relationships with, I'm a hopeless yes man. I will probably stay that way with them, because that's how we like it with them. Excuse me, sorry, my office phone's ringing. No problem. But with new ones, I've turned down shopping centers, I've turned down apartment complexes, just because I don't have to take it. I don't have to take it on, and I know that now. And I've kind of been able to start picking our workload with what we want. Like, well, these apartments are kind of junky, but they just got bought out by a bigger customer that we already take care of. Yes. These apartments are junk. We don't know who owns them. No. It's starting to be able to try to we're at the point now where we can decide what we want to take on and what we don't. I'm big on slow, calculated growth. We don't really have a outside sales rep yet, or business development manager, whatever you want to call it, because I see so much around our market that companies just bid on whatever they can, and they lowball the ground scarce. That way they get the snow work, and then everything just kind of falls by the wayside. And I'd much rather, okay, I have this list of properties that I want. I'm not going to deviate too much from it because I know this is the calculated growth we want. I think getting too big too quick is the downfall of a lot of companies, and that's not where we're going to be.
No, dude, I'm glad you have a clear understanding of what you're going after. That's huge. Having a mission, having a focus, understanding what it takes to get there. This week's sales nugget is a doozy. This is all about the client psychology when they're buying your product or service. Their service that you're offering them, maybe it's an outdoor living space, maybe it's landscaping or retaining wall or whatever it might be. There's 3 questions that are burning in your client's mind. They're not going to admit these to you, but they are there nonetheless. The first question is, what's it going to look like? The second is, what's it going to cost me? And the third is, who is going to build it? Those 3 questions are constantly running in the back of their minds, and your sales process has to make sure that you cover those things and that you give them the information that they need in a way that they can see what's in it for them from their client's perspective. Why should I choose your company over a competitor's company? If you could answer those 3 questions, what's it going to look like, what's it going to cost me, and who's going to build it in the most articulate way to give your clients the best understanding of what's in it for them, you win much more often. So you win more profitable projects with clients that you want to work with who are willing to pay you what you're worth. That's why this is so important. So what's it going to look like? What's it going to cost me? And who's going to build it? Make sure you wire that into your sales process. I found in my career that around that $1 million, $1.5 million range is when I realized, okay, it's like a different consciousness shift. Tell me if this is how you experienced it as well, where, after that million, you're like, I hit the $1 million mark. It's like the survival part, the survival constant incessant noise in your head of, am I going to make it? Am I going to make it? In our world, once you hit that $1 million, you're like, dude, this is more than we need. Like, this is amazing. Like, survival is now handled. Now you can start focusing on the bigger picture, like the growth, and start being selective. And that's when the yes management comes into a lot, because you brought a lack of yes management all the way through the first $1 million. Now it's like, well, what if I start saying no to Mrs. Jones or to that company or whatever? What are they going to do? Are they going to fire me? And then we're back down below that $1 million. So I just suggest being careful with that, because if they're used to that expectation is already there. It's a matter of slowly letting it go. And as you said, hiring people to come in and start facilitating some of that for you, so you don't have to be running 24 hours a day. But man, that's good that you have that focus. But that second level of consciousness after that, $1 million, $1.5 million mark, it's crazy how that shifts. How did that shift for you moving through and feeling through that?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started, I wanted every apartment complex, every shopping center. I wanted pretty much everything I seen that was commercial. If I seen one of our competitors on it, it made me mad, and I started researching that day. Especially properties next to ones we already took care of. And at first I was really bad with rejection. When I first started, when I had an apartment complex tell me no, it's like that just ruined my whole day.
They were saying no to you, Zach. That was the problem, right? You were like, I'm a failure. I'm a reject, whatever, right? And it was never about that, was it?
No, exactly. It was either price or they didn't want to change or whatever. And, now it's like, okay, keep who you got, keep paying that cheap price. I'm going to take pictures of my property next door, and I'll bring them over, in May, whenever your property looks like crap, and then we'll see what looks good and what doesn't. So I've really gotten better with that, because like I said, at first it was, it was the end of the world. Like, oh my God, we didn't get, steeplechase next door. Right? Oh gosh, what are we going to do? And now it's okay, we'll find something else. If they don't want to pay money, they're not going to be a good fit for us anyway. I'm not going to keep dropping my bid down every year to match their current provider's cost. Because then we're just not going to make money. And I'm fairly upfront with everything we bid on. I tell them I'm cut and dry. I'm going to tell you right away, we're probably not the cheapest. We're probably not the most expensive, but you get what you pay for. And this is what we can guarantee service level wise. This is what we can guarantee your property to look like. And this is what you can guarantee for me. And so when we started shifting away from that yes mentality, or when I did, it's helped, because now I kind of have a better understanding of where we want to go. I kind of have a better understanding of, okay, even though this big shopping center is a seasonal contract, they're only paying $40,000, and I know we're going to spend at least $28 on lawn care. Well, $12,000 isn't enough to do snow for this complex. If we get an 8-inch snow, it'll be $12,000 alone. So having that shift really has helped me identify what we want and what we don't. And I don't think it'll be this year, but for 2024 is when we really want to really explode with what we want. We're gonna spend a lot of time this coming year finding out which properties we want, researching, and then next fall just bidding like crazy on those ones that we actually want, and not just anything that comes to the door. We had a good example. I had a lady call a couple weeks ago that has 13 industrial properties, and she said, I seen one of your trucks. I want to send you guys a bid form because we've got XYZ bidding on it, and we want to get you guys a bid on it too. Your guys' work looks good. And one of the first things I asked her, I said, are you getting 3 bids or are you getting more? She's like, she said I sent it to about 15 different companies. Yeah. And I said, well, don't bother. We're not in the race to the bottom. And it was an old school, pencil in your mowing price bid sheet, and their salt specs were like, you can only salt once within 48 hours unless otherwise requested. And that's just not what we're looking for. I want to have sole discretion, especially with snow removal of services, because we are the professional. We're going to decide what the site needs to be zero tolerance. And if they don't like it, that's kind of with that conscience, then, oh, well, we're not a good fit.
Yeah, for sure, dude. Now, you mentioned that, about when someone's sending out for multiple bids, especially in the commercial world. I know in the residential world, one of my favorite questions to ask clients when they said they're getting multiple bids or have received bids and they're still getting bids, simple question. So what is it that the other companies didn't offer you that you're still looking for?
Yep.
There's something, and most of the time it's price.
Right.
Most of the time it's like, okay, well, if company A would do it for 20,000, company B will do it for 19.5, company C will do it for 18. Maybe we can get it for 15. Let's keep going, right? And it's always a race to the bottom, the race out of business, right? So asking that simple question, what did the other companies not offer that you're still looking for? Yeah. And asking them right up front with that question, like, you put them right in the position, because now you're basically saying, show me your hand. Like, why do you want my bid? Right. Yeah. And if you say it nicely like that, the next thing you know, they're like, well, we're still looking for the best price, or the other guys didn't do this or whatever. I mean, we ask that for just about every project if we get that response to that statement.
Yeah. And that's what I do most of the time with commercial properties is I ask them, are you getting 3 bids? Yeah, well, we have to. Well, does your management company force you to go with the lowest bid? Mm-hmm. Well, most of the time, yes. And I tell them, well, we're probably not going to be a good fit then, because unlike my competitors, I'm not bidding maintenance at $35 an hour. There's no way, we're doing that in our market anyway to make money. That they can say that they make it up on snow all they want, but I'm not going to lose money from March to November and then cross my fingers and hope we get a big snow so I can essentially bend them over and salt every time it rains and it's 35 degrees and try to make up my lost profit from the summer. I tell them there's a big portfolio of apartment complexes that I've been trying to get for a couple of years. And, they've kept the same provider for the past 3 years on each on 1-year contracts. And they're not happy. None of the apartment complexes are happy. And most of them we bid are about $150,000 a piece. They're large properties for maintenance. And, I tell them, well, if you're not happy, then clearly we need to make a change with your provider because something's not right. Well, they bid it and they were the lowest price by about $10,000.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but now you're having turf issues and you've got plants dying and you're calling me out here to look at these things. And then you're having me give you a bid. And then you turn around and award the enhancement work to them. I said, I'm wasting my time at this point. Whenever you want to, I don't say it quite like that because I try to be somewhat polite. But it is frustrating chasing endless trails like that. And
For sure.
I usually just end it and say, well, when you want quality over price, I bid competitively. Give me a call.
Yep.
We'll work with you the best we can, but our quality is there, and we're not going to skimp on price because just like with bidding warehouses, you get a lot of guys that spray Roundup around everything, curbs, signs, whatever. We don't do that a whole lot unless they request it, because that's just ways because they know they underbid it and they've got to save on string trimming now and save on that manual labor, so that way they can just get in, mow, blow, and go. And we're very much not a mow, blow company, and that's kind of where we structure our pricing at.
I like that. Yeah, stand on your grounds, man. It sounds like you have some unshakable foundational, virtues that you work from, and it sounds like it's honesty and it's transparency and it's all good stuff, right? Good ethical stuff, and others don't always play those same rules. For them,
Right.
business is a very different set of rules, and that's just the nature of the game. All you can do is try to get as close as you can to the customer and keep your
Right.
thumb on their pulse, because that's ultimately who wins, is the one that keeps their thumb on the pulse and understands what that client needs. Eventually,
Yep.
they get tired of paying less and getting less. They will eventually come around, and if they don't, oh well. But
And-
at least you're positioning yourself in a
Right.
way that you can come in and be like, we can absolutely take care of that problem for you.
Yeah. And
We're
the
not
commercial,
going to change our ways because of how
Yeah.
others are doing it, because we understand our clients truly want this.
right. And the commercial world is it's so cutthroat.
I can imagine,
Everybody's racing to be the cheapest one so they can get that big warehouse or that big office complex.
Yep.
And, it can be exhausting. And that's probably why I pack a full cooler when I kayak in the summer. 'Cause that's, it's a lot. And I try to tell people, especially, with my kids at the Career Center that I help out with it, they say, well, I want to grow a big company. Well, do you? Because, owning a business is great most days, but there's a lot of days that are hell. There's a lot of days that just, they just drag. And I try to tell them, business isn't all sunshine and roses every day. They say, well, I want to be my own boss so I can make my own rules. And I start laughing. I say, until you're a company that's got 20 employees or 15 employees, you probably won't be able to make your own rules, because you're the main guy. You're the guy that's going to be running to get flagstone. You're the guy that's going to be running to make sure this customer has their check for you. You're going to be the guy running because a truck broke down. And a lot of them don't realize that as they grow, right now with them just being by themselves and, mowing 30 yards, they can maybe skip a half a day and go hang out with their friends or do whatever. But when the real world sets in, you start having a couple employees in those first couple of years, it's tough. And even where we're at, there's days it's like, I don't even see the daylight of my house for a couple of days. It's like I leave work and it's dark in the morning. I get home and it's dark at night. It's like, there's a lot of them that don't realize that. And so just trying to push that through too is, this is a tough game. And especially, they talk about, well, I want to bid on this shopping center over here. I got like 40 yards now. They asked me to bid it. It's a small one, but I think I can do it. And I say, well, you need to make sure you know your numbers first, because if the residential to commercial world is a whole different ball game. And if we tried to do residential, we'd have to completely restructure, because the few residential we do for like property managers and our attorney and our banker, we don't make anything on it.
Wow.
We basically do it at cost, because our crews aren't set up to mow Mrs. Jones' yard. They're set up to mow Mrs. Jones' cousin's apartment complex that takes a full day for 5 guys. They're not set up to do that smaller work. And so, not to get on too much of a tangent on commercial versus residential, but I enjoy the commercial world most days, but it is cutthroat. Especially, it seems like every guy that used to work for Brickman Group starts up their own company, and around here anyway, and they've decided that they want to go out and tackle commercial on their own. So it's interesting. It keeps you on your toes.
No, I bet it does. And that actually leads me into my next question. So I learned through my journey, through watching others, my mentors, that in order to become more, you have to learn, you have to educate, you have to become more in order to grow a business. So you personally have to grow inside spiritually, emotionally, physically, all of that, in order to take the company to the next level. If you don't do any of that, you will not just miraculously one day wake up and your company will be twice the size. You've got to become twice the person in order to have a company that's twice the size. There's a direct correlation to that. Once I learned that, I'm like, oh boy, that means that I got to constantly be growing in order for my company to be growing. So how are you taking that? I know you're 22 and it's amazing that you're this far in life already and already, cranking it out and focused and have a clear vision. How are you growing personally in order to keep that mission moving and the company growing?
Yeah, I never try to stop learning. Even though I went to college, I know I'm still very far off from knowing all the plants and all the design schematics, and there's a lot of things that I don't know in the landscape world because the landscape world is so vast. But I try to read as many books as possible, especially on business and for example, The Fred Factor and some other books by Mark Sanborn and a couple others that I really try to grab onto that, to grow this business, it takes more than just selling work and hiring people. We used to be very, very much a good old boy company. So culture was never really big. And now we're trying to slowly change that because a lot of our guys have been with us for a while. They're not used to it. Mm-hmm. And trying to get the new ones on board with it, it's a challenge. And so that's a big part that's grown with me is trying to embrace a new culture and grow in the business side of things, expand my knowledge and just try to read a lot and research a lot. There's not much. I don't get much out of the GIE Expo. I like to go to the actual landscape side and go to the education classes and do that sort of thing because equipment's cool, but I can research equipment online. I can do that all day long. I don't have to walk 10 miles in a trade show to see a new Chevy truck. I know the setup we like. I know what setup works for us. Not saying that I wouldn't go through there, and I have many for a couple years now, but just always learning, always trying to grow myself and my knowledge is a big key to it.
No, absolutely true, dude. Just you never stop learning because as soon as you do and you think you know it all, that's when your business will plateau and start to go the other way around. Because everyone else that's trying to grow they know this, or at least they're in it, whether they know it or not. And if they're not pushing themselves to grow, their business is not growing either. And that was a hard fact for me to learn. And then once I learned it, I was like, okay, so if that's the case, I should be focusing on my number one priority is personal growth. Right. In the 4 F's where it's faith, family, fitness, and finance. So I need to be focusing on how to become better in all of those all the time. And when I do, then a business not naturally grows, but there's a higher probability it will. Right. And you can solve problems better because you have a bigger base of knowledge to work with and then partner with mentors. So have you found mentors to be I think you mentioned this earlier, but I want to go back to this about finding mentors within your industry or within your life that can help you, that have been where you want to go, that can help you get there. Have you found it to be a very helpful resource?
Yeah, absolutely. So especially with, like I mentioned, that Ohio High School Landscape Olympics, I met a lot of colleagues through that. I was also extremely active in FFA in high school, and I did the turf grass management proficiency and landscape management proficiency. And so on the state level, a few of the judges I met when I was, a freshman in high school, so 2014 or 15, especially one of the judges, Mike Lynch from Environmental Management in Columbus. I have to name drop him because he's been such an awesome asset to me. We try to meet at least a couple times a year for lunch, as well as I see him. I help volunteer on the national level for FFA. So I go to Indianapolis every year with him and some other judges from Columbus, Ohio. And we judge the skills competition for the nursery and landscape career development event. So Mike, and then a couple others like Andrew Muntz from Green Velvet Sod Farms. We actually buy product from one of their branches. But just these guys that I met, coming up on 10 years ago that I still talk to now and still bounce ideas off of. And with Mike being at Central Ohio's biggest landscape company, I think they have like $63 million in revenue this year. And he's an account manager that's been there since 1997. Yeah. There's really nobody in my mind that knows the commercial landscape game better than him. And so it doesn't really, neither one of us never really seems like it. But he brings me up with him every year at we call it OLO, the competition for high school. We call it OLO. And he brings me up with him every year and tries to talk to kids. Like Zach's gone through the program. Zach is like, I'm like his mentor. We really don't look at it that way because him and I just look at it as a couple times a year we meet at Roosters for lunch, and just I bounce ideas off of him and ask him questions. Well, how do you guys do this kind of snow removal? How do you guys charge for brine? And so that's been a big help. And we've looked at doing it more with our Landscape Olympics competition because, we've got 200 high school kids that are in career tech programs because most of the time they want to be in landscaping or they want to do something outdoors. We've looked at assigning like a certain group of them mentors to where, once or twice a year, we bring a couple of them either to our company or we come to their school, take them to lunch and just let them ask whatever questions they want for a full day. And that way we can try to answer questions the best we can about whatever they have about the industry, about business, about landscape in general, about what we do, and really try to connect with them and help keep them in industry. A lot of these career centers, a lot of people, trade schools are getting big again, at least around us. And the career center that I went to, they just combined their landscape and outdoor environment program into one. So it's landscape and natural resources. They have over 200 acres of wetland, of prairie, of woods, of lawn areas. They got an indoor pole barn that they can do all kinds of projects. And so we as an industry really need to look more into that because our next generation is already getting trained in high school. Now, when we run into, like when I was in high school, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. And there's a lot of kids that don't. So there is some turnover with that because they'll get out of high school and they'll work a landscape job and go, this really isn't for me. But at least they've got that experience and they try it and they know for sure if they want to do it or not. Yeah. Rather than hire them when they're 30 and they've had factory jobs and no experience. And there's nothing wrong with that. But, we really try to, we want to in industry with our high school kids, build that mentorship thing up a little bit more because like what I did, I never thought that 10 years later I'd be having lunch a couple times a year and call on the phone a couple times every other month with one of the judges that I had for FFA. I would have never thought I would have ever seen him again. And
that's awesome.
I did that competition probably 5 or 6 times. And every time it's like, I seen him and I was like, hey, Mike, he's like, oh, hey, haven't seen you before. And so that's really cool.
I love that, dude. And it's so many, I don't know, I used to think this exact thing where I'm like, who would want to say yes to some young kid asking questions? Like, hey, they're too busy for me. Why would they want to help? And the crazy thing that I've learned, and you could tell me if you learned this as well, but people that are successful, they want to help. They want to give. Yeah. Contribution is center to their heart, growth and contribution, right? So contribution is helping. And if you find somebody that you ask and say, can you mentor me? And they might say no, but like, all right, can I shadow you? Is there some way that I can get around you? Can I help you? Can I do something for you to learn? You got to be able to put a little value in there too, right? Yeah. Next thing you know, it's like, holy crap, now I'm rubbing wings with this person all the time and I'm learning from them and I'm following them to lunch meetings and helping out. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, they do actually have time for me because they don't want to waste their time. Their time is valuable. They have a strong yes management in place. That's why they're successful. Right. So you got to give them a reason to say yes. Yeah. It's not because of whether you're worth it or not. It's because they got to look at them and they've got to say, you know what? I really want to help this person out. Give them a reason.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a couple of kids, they graduated in maybe 2019 or 2020. I've got one that he wants to start up a like excavation and landscape business. And he's like, this is literally just this past year, he called me and said, hey, what do I need to have in a contract for like an install contract? I got this customer that wants me to do a retaining wall in front of their house because they live on a little bit of a hill and it's like a 4-foot retaining wall. What do you have in your contract? Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, I said, come down to work and I'll show you. And I pulled up the contract for him or my template and showed him. I said, this is what I got. I said, you obviously need to reword it a little bit and, you need to add what works for you. I said, this works for me. I was like, don't copy it, but this is what works for us. We've got clauses in there for pavers and theft and wind and water and all this stuff. I said, the biggest thing is CYA. And he's like, what's CYA? I was like, cover your ass. Mm-hmm. I said, especially once you start on things like that, if a wall fails and somebody's front yard ends up in the street, you need to make sure that in no way, shape or form, it can come back on you. unless you just really are bad at building a wall, but
Yeah,
you shouldn't
exactly.
be if you're going to be doing that. So, just being as open as possible, especially with these kids that come up, that
Yeah.
showing them, I job shadowed. I had two of them job shadow me at the end of November. Two of the ones that are current juniors at the Career Center, and they asked, "Well, what does one of your landscape contracts look like?" And so we pulled up a landscape contract, and they said, "Well, what does an enhancement contract look like?" And I'm like, "Well, glad you asked. We're going to sell this today. You're going with me." And
Nice.
so,
Love
kind
that.
of showing them everything from what we do on the operations side to selling an enhancement quote. And even if, it's November, so there's not a whole lot to do, but showing them, hey, this is a brush cutting quote. We're going to clear out some brush on a fence line. This is what it looks like. And just trying to be
Yeah.
as open as possible to not say no to them. I know that's probably back to the yes management thing, but we got to get kids in the industry somehow, because Lawn and Landscape had a magazine article a year or two ago, and the average age for this industry is 45 to 55.
Yep.
And that's pretty much 80% of our industry. So that's something that we as an industry definitely have to work on.
That's because I'm 44, so we didn't grow up with YouTube, right? You couldn't be a YouTube star and make $1 million. It didn't exist. You had to work, right?
Yeah.
So, and video games were popular, but not as popular as they are now, because they're not in a pocket. We had to do it differently. But anyway, different world. But dude, I appreciate our conversation today, and I appreciate you coming on and being honest and very upright in what you're doing, and your focus and your morality and how you handle and manage your clients. I love that. So if there was one piece of wisdom that you've learned over your 22 years so far, especially being kind of thrown in the middle of being young and having to, manage that and your clients' expectations, what is a piece of advice you think you could give to anybody young listening?
I would say, never underestimate what you can do. Because even if you're younger in the industry, it doesn't really matter if you know what you're doing and you've got a passion for it. Build your knowledge up. The biggest thing I try to preach to these kids from the Career Center is knowledge. Don't think that just because you can mow Mrs. Jones' yard that you can take on a big project. You have to go the extra mile. And I push trade schools pretty heavy. I push the Career Center pretty heavy, and I push for kids that if they want to go into and really not even high school kids. I had people in my college classes that were in their 40s that realized that they want to be a landscape designer. If you want an upper position with a company and you have a degree, you will make good money in this industry, especially if you have a passion for it. And I guess to kind of wrap it up, that's really what it is just if you have a passion for it, follow it, and don't stop.
Yeah, that passion will take you through just about everything.
Yeah,
that's the cool part. It'll pull you forward as opposed to trying to push you out the door in the morning.
Yep.
And that's the biggest change right there. But
yeah,
Zach,
you never want to have a Monday where you just dread going to work. Most Mondays I'm pretty happy to do what I do, and
absolutely,
I don't complain too much.
100%, dude. And this concept of each one teach one is near and dear to my heart, and I know it is to yours, and I can tell by how much volunteering you're doing and helping out with the center and all that stuff. But if we as an industry would focus more on each one teach one and not trying to keep all of our ideas all bottled up because if somebody found out, then we would be at some kind of a disadvantage. That when that flips in this industry is going to go to the moon. It's going to be incredible.
I agree.
We need to have conversations like this so others can listen and say, you know what, I might only be in business 5 years, but I learned some stuff along that way. And I'd love to share it with somebody just starting out. And I'd love to also be the quote unquote dumbest one in the room and go talk to somebody who's done it for 30 years and figure out how the hell I can get there faster. Why would you wait another 25 years to figure out what they figured out when you can do it in maybe a year?
Right.
It's crazy. Compress decades into days, but each one teach one is how we're going to push the industry ahead. And that's why we have this podcast, and that's why we do our events and all that stuff. So we can all help each other grow. That's what it's all about. So Zach, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate your valuable time and all that you've shared with us. If someone wants to reach out to you directly about anything we talked about here, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Either Facebook, through our Facebook page, or just look us up and call my office number. If anybody's got any questions, my office number is on our website, and my extension is on our voicemail. Shoot me a call, shoot me a message on Facebook, Instagram, zgordon25 on Instagram. I'll pretty much answer anything to anybody in the industry. And I know once I got on the Green Grind podcast, that's I don't want to try to build my clout. I'm all for our industry. So my big push is to try to get on as many podcasts as I can this next year and push this industry, because I think it's the best industry. We call it green collar, not blue collar, and I think it's a great industry to get into. But give me a call on my office phone, on Instagram, zgordon25, even Facebook on our company page, or even on mine. I'm always open to answer any questions.
And what's your website?
mgzlawn.com.
Got it. mgzlawn.com. Well, Zach, I appreciate your time. And for all the listeners out there, I appreciate you listening in here. There's a lot of great nuggets dropped today. And yeah, I had a great time talking to Zach. A lot of good stuff. I always like learning stuff, and I always like talking to amazing people. So guys, if you've enjoyed it, that's great. We'll talk next week. Thanks for listening.